Well, hello, that's me again. Today is February 13th. Gosh, thank God it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. And a little bit of military science today, but let's start with what I have to do now that I become also part-time political commentator. And we start with this is not really news, honestly. So the fact that Biden privately disses Netanyahu, and he called Israeli Prime Minister an asshole, basically. So, yeah, U.S. President Joe Biden has not modified his Israel policy despite mounting frustration with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to compromise in Gaza. And you know what? Yeah, NBC reports this, and yeah, Biden can do nothing to Netanyahu or Israel because he is owned by Israel. So is Israeli occupied territory, as Pat Buchanan once stated about the U.S. Congress. So, and Biden says that he just feels like this is enough, it has to stop, and you know, but Biden complains Netanyahu is giving him hell. Of course he does. And Biden's frustration also spilled over into allegedly calling the Israel Prime Minister an a-hole on 3 separate occasions. According to his confidants, he's been a pain in my ass lately. Well, nothing he can do. Obviously, the United States can stop that basically genocide of the Palestinian population in Gaza very fast. But you know what? It's not gonna do it. And if that hasn't been enough, we also have the situation with Mr. Biden and his plan as, you know, to how to deal with the issue here. As you can see yourself, they want to do something with the Mexico border near Khan Yunis and Gaza Strip. But yeah, that's Mr. Biden's plans. And we obviously have now even Hillary Clinton admitting that his age, you know, has some issues. And we have Kamala Harris, God help us all, my goodness, who says that she's ready to basically deal with the responsibility of the President of the United States. And if that hasn't been enough, we know that Senate has passed the bill with whatever 105 or whatever number of $billion. It doesn't matter. It just just printed money, and that obviously Chuck Schumer was very ecstatic about it. But of course, we know that this aid will not materialize until this legislation passes through the lower chamber, which is of course House of Representatives. And we know that actually the Speaker of the House of Representatives, he stated very clearly that he's not going to put it even on the voting. So yeah, it's just propaganda, but there is a bad propaganda, and of course there is a good propaganda. And this wonderful woman, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, she stated very clearly, which I agree and I applaud her, that you know what, if the Congress who support military aid to Ukraine, those congressmen and senators, they must themselves serve on the front lines of the conflict. And she has the right to say this because, yeah, she served as, officer, I believe, in the U.S. Air Force. And she basically offered this legislature, and she called it a Schumer Act. When you look at Mr. Schumer, obviously, you know everything to know about him. He is a soft, covered from, and a shyster from New York or New Jersey, whatever the hell he is from, mostly New York. So, and he is really, hell-bent on just kill as many Russians as possible. And so here it is. Here's American servicewoman who, well, she's pretty attractive too, you have to admit. So she, gets this thing going, and I applaud her for that, because too many people who never served a day in the armed forces never saw anything related to the combat operational activity. They decide that they know how to fight the war. They don't, as do not most of the so-called specialists, and I spoke about few of them, such as this shyster Peter Zehan, who know the difference between operational and strategic, or all other kinds of people who, basically go around on YouTube posting all kinds of the BS or tactical minutia. Oh, look at this explosion. It exploded beautifully. What does it mean? Nobody knows what does it mean. It just explodes. So what is the tactical report? You cannot have the tactical report because obviously it is classified, and it goes through the, only through appropriate channels, be them in military media channel, which expose you to some tactical realities or some operational realities, or they go just directly to the upper echelons of the military power. They never disclosed, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Yet we have all this, tactical minutia explosion peddling so-called military specialists who also gather all kinds of information without having a basic toolkit in terms of, forget about tactical, as I already stated, they will not understand how war is won on the and this is the only level it is won in. It's actually operational and strategic. And when I talk about those people dominating basically the narrative, selling all kinds of the, military snake oil and military porn, we need to go and talk to this guy. He is a shyster, he is basically a moron, and he would never even dare to talk to any real military professional. So he was evidently concussed in the sustained concussion while visiting Afghanistan. But here his name obviously is David X, and look at this. I write about ships, planes, tanks, drones, missiles, and satellites, in which, of course, he has zero expertise, especially the way they are used. But look at this, what he reports 11th, so 2 days ago. Ukraine may have deployed one of its best brigade to try to save Avdiivka. It's possible the 3rd Assault Brigade has joined the fight. And so this guy is just explaining how cool this brigade is. Well, he doesn't understand. He is talking about the fanatical Nazis who constitute this so-called brigade, and Russians are waiting gladly for them. But, you cannot explain to David X that he is actually salivating and, ejaculating all over the Nazi people. So it's just the way it is, with the American media, who have been put in their place by Tucker and after interview with Vladimir Putin. But yeah, you still will have those, shysters and amateurs providing all kinds of the insights, quote unquote, of course, while having none. Well, it's basically, that's how modern journalism works. You have people with zero capabilities or zero understanding of anything serious, but they basically hang around the communities of the professionals, such as, for example, military professionals or scientific professionals. They gather those rumors, they package them into their form which is good for their agenda of the media they work for, and they sell it to the, hoi polloi who eats it. And that's what I'm talking about. When you look at all those so-called popular geopolitical observers or military correspondents, 99% of them are frauds who wouldn't understand basic military things, because I already spoke about this Bulgarian guy, Alexander Mladenov, who is a complete NATO shill. He graduated 2 year or a year and a half, whatever, school, Bulgarian School of Air Defense or something like that. So, and you look at these people and what they write and what they publish, it's just complete garbage. I mean, and they have been proven wrong so many times by now that I'm surprised that they retain any kind of the audience with them. But evidently those people are very easily manipulated, and they are kind of sort of like the cult leaders of this, I don't know, just delusional parallel or alternative universe of the military and political and geopolitical developments. And here is, as I already showed you, David X. But what I want to tell you today, obviously, is very important in purely military terms. And before I go and explain it to you, here's those are two real professionals, cadre officers, obviously the Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis and, of course, Colonel Douglas McGregor. And they are veterans of the Gulf War, and you can listen to their wonderful talk talk, especially Colonel Douglas MacGregor, speaking about the necessity to find new elites for the United States to save the country. And just go and watch this, and they talk about the deadly myth of U.S. invincibility, which is, of course, United States is very invincible, so to speak. And when we talk about it, here's the issue. Wonderful writer, Helmholtz Smith, he wrote a very kind of, short but succinct definition almost, of what is happening with the United States and combined West. And the piece, which was posted by my good friend Larry Johnson, is called Bad Assumptions, Bad Results. It was done 2 days ago, and here it is. Here is what Mr. Smith writes. Now that the Ukraine war is dragging to a close and NATO is running out of willpower, money, guns, tanks, and artillery shells, with shaky economies, unstable politics, too many angry farmers, and new wars, domestic and foreign, to worry about, it's time to remember just how it all began. And yes, why don't we remember it? Because Mr. Smith points out in the bullet point kind of way what went wrong, and it's very succinct. It's written by the obviously military intelligence professional, and here it is. And false assumptions and false history. Get this, false history, exactly. That's why this is what exactly which is taught in the U.S. service academies about how great America was defeating all those Hitlers and all that. So, but false assumptions and false history explain how Washington and the NATO it controls got into this mess. And look at this. This is what he writes. Assumed Russian economic weakness. They believed Russian economy was weak. They still do. They still push this shtick. Today, it's this laughable Institute of the International Strategic Studies from London. I don't know what they studied. Basically, British generals, they never commanded anything larger than a brigade in their life. So, but hey, yeah, they write that, yeah, Russia only can sustain another 2-3 years of such a war. Well, they need to have a good military, economic, and political education, which, of course, you cannot get anymore in Great Britain. In UK, you still can get some decent STEM. In terms of the other types of the education like this, it's garbage. So, including the London School of Economics. And that's what he says, that, they believe that Russian economy was weak. Sanctions would cripple economy. And the underbosses takings, and they would get rid of Putin. So, we already know how it all went, and Mr. Smith makes references to basically those debunking of those predictions a couple of years ago. Then they assume that Russian battlefield incompetence. They swallowed the 3 alibis. If you don't know what 3 alibis are, I strongly suggest you find Mr. Colonel Jonathan House, the second part of Glantz and House duo, who provided the best English language literature on the Eastern Front. Go and look up his lecture about 3 alibis, where he debunks the whole confabulated American and German military history of the World War II. All this garbage about which sadly even Colonel MacGregor was repeating about the 1 million Russian Red Army soldiers being executed, which is of course a complete insanity. For all my deep respect to Colonel. And so go and find this on YouTube. He talks about it in the U.S. Army War College 10 years ago, I think. So this was lecture. And yes, Russians were no good at war, and they only beat Germans because Hitler made stupid decisions. It was cold, and they had endless manpower resources. The work of David Glantz's team was forgotten. Well, it never was actually remembered because it never has been internalized, because it contradicts dramatically the confabulated military history of the United States in the 20th century. It completely debunks it. But hey, why would anybody really study real warfare, right? And we're talking about not Russians, we're talking about Americans who evidently are now parading all this top brass, about which, by the way, Daniel Davis and Mr. MacGregor speak about. Look at those generals, from Petraeus to Keane to Kellogg. They won't be allowed to control and command anything, and I mean it. It's not exaggeration. They won't be allowed on the brigade level. Those people have no clue about modern warfare and about real war. But hey, they are generals, right? So, and yes, I'm giving you, and I'm not exaggerating. Those guys won't pass entrance exams to the what roughly is called the equivalence of the Russian 2-year war colleges, let alone they will never pass into any exams into the Academy of the General Staff. This is how bad they are. They are basically nothing more than propagandists. So, they, of course, assumed NATO superiority. Sure, they assumed, of course. Everything, you know what, as Mr. Smith Love said, they believe that NATO training, weapons, and everything else were wonderful, superior, and game changers. Yes, we know now most of it is garbage designed to sell. Oh, so powerful. Russian weapons were junk. Yeah, like Colonel Tony Shaffer or Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer told Judge Napolitano a couple of days or 3 days ago that, yeah, Russians used the junky weapons from 1990s. There you go. That's your level of the intelligence in the modern United States. And so they, of course, were running out of them. Superiority training and weapons would make the disheartened and untrained Russians oafs run screaming in terror. Yes, they really thought so. I write a book about this now. And that tells you how amateurish and really unprofessional those people are. And of course, bad history. They swallowed the post-war falsification of history, captive nations, communist subjugation of free people. All Nazis were Germans and Hitler drove the trains. So, yeah, he obviously explains this, that and especially post-World War II history is also junk. It's propaganda. And hey, you know what? Russians, that's what Russians tell all Eastern Europeans. We don't need you. Get the hell out of us, you know? But those people, they still pretend that Russia wants to attack them. Well, what can I say? Let them. So, and of course, Mr. Smith basically makes the summary, which is, of course, it was all wrong. And this all wrong thing is, of course, the indication of a complete dysfunction of the governance, military education, and any education for that matter, with the exception of STEM, because the United States still retains a significant degree of the good STEM schools. But in terms of, as I already stated, what is called humanities, and it's complete junk. Most of it is garbage. So, and again, as I stated, go and listen. Just find this video from yesterday or 2 days ago of Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis and Colonel Douglas McGregor. Listen attentively to the whole interview. And of course, Douglas McGregor speaks about something which is an extremely important thing. And this important thing is when you listen to his opening statement, that it's not only that United States is not militarily what it was thinking about itself, but the point is why it cannot fight and win war in Europe. Let's say if the United States decides to go and suddenly, you know, just invade Ukraine to stop those nasty Russians. The point is, even if to basically imagine that they want to do this, and then suddenly, yeah, they will need to constitute the draft. Good luck with that. I mean, the United States will disintegrate completely in this moment, the moment the draft is reestablished. But the point is this. Douglas McGregor says we will not be able to really preposition forces or deliver them because of the Russian Navy. And here are some really interesting news which come from Ukraine. Look at this. Yesterday, suddenly the Ukrainians say that Russia used an advanced hypersonic missiles for the first time in recent strike, Ukraine claims. Ukraine claims it has evidence Russia fired an advanced hypersonic missile, one that experts say is almost impossible to shut down, for the first time in almost 2 years. They don't mean actually that Russia shot a Kinzhal. No, Kinzhal is being used since the start of the special military operation to a great effect. Well, some Patriot complexes, they can tell you, well, they tell it in there, whatever their, the destroyed equipment goes, whatever their hell or heaven is, they tell those stories there. But they're talking about 3M-22 Zircon, which is their both anti-shipping and land attack missile. And it's Mach 9, 1,500 kilometers range missile. And they say that markings on the parts and fragments, the identification of components, tell that it could have been zircon. Could it have been zircon? Well, let me put it this way. Any ship which has the 3S-14 VLS vertical launch system, which, for example, most of frigates and corvettes, new corvettes of Russian Black Sea Fleet have, yeah, they probably, you can load the zircon there, and yeah, after that it's just a matter, technological matter, receive the target and shoot at it. So that's possible, certainly. But there were another news, which of course Mr. McGregor mentioned, which are very important. If you look at this news on the 7th of February, Zvezda shipyard floats overhauled Irkutsk nuclear submarine. The upgraded Irkutsk, which is Oscar II, Project 949A, have been modernized to AM of the Pacific Fleet, will carry over 30 hypersonic Zircon missiles and over 30 physic torpedoes. Physic torpedo is a special thing. It's extremely long range, and it is brand new torpedo, but it is the fact that some people say that new, updated, upgraded, well, fully modernized, really, submarines of the Oscar II class, such as you can see Irkutsk here before modernization, they can carry now not 24, but some say 72, more realistically probably 48 missiles of all classes. And of course, if you carry 30 Zircons, my friends, let me put it this way, a single submarine of this class, which will be obviously, the US Navy will try to hunt it as much as possible, but this alone can sink pretty much any kind of the deliveries and stop there in their tracks all the preposition forces, which are of course combination of the specially designed transport ships, which will prevent the United States to have any kind of the serious combat force in Europe, period. And again, do not forget, Irkutsk is the first of them, and of course Russia has many other submarines which shoot all kinds of missiles, including the brand new Yasin class Project 885 Zircon carriers. Another matter, they can carry up to 32 missiles in their VLS, vertical launch systems. Now, and that explains a little bit what I was talking about in terms of why Colonel McGregor basically talks about the why it will be almost impossible for the United States to deliver any kind of force to Europe, because it will be sunk. And no matter what you do, you cannot move your aircraft carriers because they will be sunk too, and nothing could be done about it. But here is the issue. And this is what, when we look at this and you hear all those so-called specialists in war, talking about this, tactical minutia talk, what happens is a very interesting thing. When I talk about a special military operation, and my friends who are operational level officers, some of them in the central apparatus, operators, the guys who are actually in charge of many thousand of people who operate within their, general staff structure with how the combat is done, when they say that, Russian forces never lost the operational initiative, starting from the 24th February 2022, when the SMO started, many people say, well, what? No, look at this Battle of Kiev. And they say, no, Battle of Kiev, and especially when we know what was happening in Istanbul, there was no Battle of Kiev. Russians withdrew at the, gesture of goodwill. In Kharkov later, Russians withdrew. Yeah, they didn't risk their lives of their soldiers and officers for nothing, for the flat field. But when they say that, they never lost operational initiative, they say, what is that? And you cannot blame people, because obviously they do not even operate with this thing, with this term. And as in any kind of linguistics, actually, when you ask what is that, you have to answer what is that with a noun. This is a or the thing, And so here we are. Let's take a look at it, why there are some issues with understanding even on the, American military level. We're gonna go into the Field Manual 3. It's Operations, Field Manual 3.0. It is released in October 2022. And when it's field manual, 280 pages of it's open for the release. It's not classified, and it's actually distribution restrictions. They state about this, and they talk. There's very interesting things there about all kinds of operations, how they designed, how they fought, which of course is not applicable. And I spoke about this many times for the modern warfare. But when you go and do the search on the operational initiative, you get only 3 results on the 280 pages, and none of these results give the definition what operational initiative is. They talk about if you gain operational initiatives or this and that. You can go and look up the very few sources, for example, as Major Flashman, master's thesis about the operational initiative. And look at this. Even he, when defending his thesis, he speaks about this like, despite its vagaries, initiative is a staple of military theory. Although almost no theorist addresses initiative directly, early theorists defined and used them in varying contexts. And he begins to basically list those contexts, starting from the, all kinds of the old French, Jomini, of course, Clausewitz, and they talk about initiative and how to use it, how to gain it. And he says, and he states here this: the definition of initiative remains elusive in modern military theory as well. U.S. Air Force Colonel Boyd defined initiative as action, but not necessarily offensive action. And he talks about the issue of the guiding the development of air-land battle, which is, of course, a complete bust in the modern world. It doesn't work. It never worked, actually, against the serious enemy. And here's the contradiction. Well, it's not obviously given the definition in American military science. In Russian military science, it is given from, and we're going to this thing. It's called War and Peace in Terms and Definitions. Military Technological Glossary. It's basically the military issue of, what was edited by Mr. Rogozin under his edition, but it was written by Russian military professionals, and it is all taken from the operational and strategic manuals and guides. And here it is. Look at this. Operational initiative. Look at this. And they immediately ask, when you ask, what is this? This is a set of created conditions, circumstances, and objective circumstances that make it possible to impose one's will on the enemy during an ongoing operation. So here comes the entrance point for the definition of operation. For a certain time in the corresponding direction, the side that has seized the initiative has the freedom to choose methods of action, directions, and timing of strikes, and can solve assigned tasks in favorable conditions, while the other side is limited in its action. And it's all about achieving success in operations. And when you look at this, while the other side is limited in its actions, that's what you cannot explain, for example, to General Kellogg, who obviously grew up in the military environment, which doesn't give definitions for the operational initiative. Fact is, operational art went through the use as primarily through Russians. All the Germans have been actually at the inception point of the operational art. Anglo-American military science never had operational art until very late in the game. They had this, tactics, and they had the strategy. And then, of course, they had this either big tactics or small strategy, which was a substitute, ersatz, so to speak, for the operational art and operations. But Russians have been using and developing operational art, and as you can see yourself, have a very clear-cut definition for many, many decades. And that is why when you look at this, and of course when you put together universally accepted fact that the victory is achieved always only on the operational strategic level, and tactics, while very important and obviously feeds up into those levels, is not the definition of the victory. And when you look at this and you suddenly give this definition or explanation that Russian armed forces never lost operational initiative, during special military operation, and it was squeezing and limiting every action of the Ukrainian armed forces and their NATO advisors. They will be like, wow, how is that? Well, because you have to have definitions. You have to know what you're dealing with. And when you have 280 pages in like Field Manual 3-0, and it's only 3 mentioning of operational initiative without giving the definition, how will you even know what it is? While Russians, for example, operated as the, very well defined definition, and there a lot of things are tied to it already on the operational level, for example, in terms of the serious operational calculations and the way the operational science turns into operational art and how they integrate with each other. And again, while I was serving on the ships, and then of course I was getting my clearance to command the ship, and then of course I ended up in the brigade level as the specialist in the staff. For me, that was an eye-opening in many respects, where, wow, this is very different. And that's and this was a separate brigade, which had quite a bit of force it commanded. And when you look at this, until you understand how operational level operates and what operations are, it's very difficult to understand the modern geopolitics, and it's very difficult to understand why such a panic and such is, well, basically going bananas among the Pentagon top brass, that they never understood what they were facing with, and they were not supposed to. And now they have their balls in the vices, and they scream. And because obviously we understand that it's not just the death of the American myth of invincibility, it always was a myth. The finest fighting force in history, Pearl Obama, didn't win a war since 1950. And when you look at this, look deeper into the operational strategic level of what comes under the auspices, so to speak, or under aegis of military science in the United States or in Anglo world. I'm not even gonna go in discussing the United Kingdom Armed Forces. It's not serious. It's a joke. And so are jokes, their military academies, and people who pretend that they know something, who teach there, those professors and PhDs. It cannot be taken seriously. And this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And this is very important, and I want you to make kind of, ingrain it, if you wish, in your mind, because I'm going to be continuing talking about operational strategic matters, because I'm sick and tired looking at those, Russian Lancets or Ka-52s blowing their forces, what was left of armed forces of Ukraine to smithereens. It continues, and now, yeah, they throw this 3rd Brigade. Russians are gladly rubbing hands. They would love to kill some Nazis. So this is it for today, guys, and as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Have a nice rest of the week. Bye-bye.